From Cask Cartel, this is the Cartel Hour. I'm Cameron Stevens.
And my name is Seth Benheim.
Together, we're tasting all kinds of spirits with master distillers, celebrity guests, and more. We're here to learn a little bit and drink a little bit. So grab a glass and let's enjoy. Welcome back to the Infusory for another episode of the Cartel Hour. My name is Cameron Stevens.
And I am Seth Benheim, and today we are drinking our way all through Scotland.
Yes, this is an episode I've been really excited for because we haven't really done something quite like this, at least in a while and really ever. And we're both big Scotch fans. And why not take a tour through the 6 regions of Scotland that are making the lovely Scotch that we have in front of us?
Yeah, we thought we'd try to find a bottle that kind of represented each region nicely and would be a good example of a Scotch from that region, and kind of give you our thoughts and opinions on these. Some of these Cameron has not had before. Some of these I have not had in
a while.
4 years, 5 years. And there was some dust on some of these.
Yeah, there you go.
That I had, I couldn't tell you anything about these Scotches other than I have tried them and remember either liking them or not liking them, and that may or may not have changed. And
wait, one of these you haven't opened,
and one I have not opened, so neither of us have had it.
Correct.
Before. So, and there's only one cask strength. Most of these bottles are approachable price point, so nothing like $200, $300, $400, $500 bottles.
Right.
None of these. Some of these are going to be available near you, like they're just really common products, and some of these are newer or just maybe you
might have to hunt a little bit for it.
Like Campbeltown was a little hard because Campbelltown's a little smaller. It's the smallest of the regions, I believe. Right. And there's only a handful of distilleries. I think it's like 3 or something.
Well, why don't we tell everybody what we have? Since this is an audio-only podcast, let's go ahead and do the different regions. So the first one from the Lowlands, we've got Bladnoch.
Bladnoch, yes. We have the 15-year Bladnoch.
Yes.
I actually do have a 25-year somewhere in the world.
And this is Oloroso cask as well.
Oloroso. This is the Adela. I could be saying that wrong. It's Scottish and like... It could be like Adela or something like that. I don't know. I could be saying it wrong. Not to make fun. I'm not making fun at all.
We need Gordon back.
Gordon or Willie or one of our other Scotch guys. We've only done 2 Scotch episodes. One on a knock with whiskey, and then one on just the region of Islay, however you want to pronounce it.
In general, yeah.
Scotch. But today is kind of all those regions.
So this one's the Bladnoch, the Lowlands. Yeah, and then where are we going next?
Campbeltown. We've got a Springbank 9-year-old.
Yes, the local barley.
Now, this is a cask strength. This is a high proof, so we're going to go a little higher. And we're not drinking these in order of like profile. We're going south, and we're heading north. Okay. Then we got an Adela. We got the Ardbeg 10. Classic Ardbeg
stuff.
10. Speyside. We got the Craigellachie.
Yeah, the Craigellachie. This is a great one. 13-year, 46%. Cool bottle. Looking
really
forward to that
cool
one.
Bottle.
Yep.
Highlands, the Highland region. We've got just a classic Oban 14-year-old.
Yeah, you don't have much left in this one.
That's an older bottle. I've had it for a long time. It was one of the first Scotches I went and bought after receiving a handful from my business partner, which I coasted on those for quite some time.
Nice. Okay, well, this is a good one. Lot of text on this bottle.
Yep, and then the Isles or the Islands, what you want to call them, the Highland Park. Now, don't be confused. Highland Park is not from the Highland region. It is an Islands distillery, and we have the Highland Park 12-year cask strength whiskey, and that is the bottle we have not opened. So
yeah, this one is definitely ex-bourbon.
Does it say ex-bourbon?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know. We might have to look this up because I'm just looking at the color itself. There's actually not much on this bottle.
Yeah, it's a small label. When we get to that one, we will give you all the details. I think this is ex-bourbon.
We're going to have to look it up. Yeah. So we're doing a little bit of discovery along with you guys, but we're definitely going to be tasting and giving you all of our thoughts. And we're going to also attempt to do a little bit of some summary of, what you generally might expect from the area. If you're kind of very high level trying to say, okay, well, if I'm looking for a Highland, what generally flavors am I looking for versus a Islay versus a Campbeltown or something like that, as well as our personal opinions on these particular scotches and whether or not you should add them to your collection if you're a Scotch fan. So we're starting with the Bladnoch, right?
Yes, please pour yourself a glass and pass the bottle.
Well, it's a beautiful bottle. It's got this like thick silver, top on it. Very heavy, very weighty.
Yeah, this bottle's gorgeous, and
Very pretty.
It's a really intense. The cork reminds me a little bit of De Leon tequila.
Yes,
Remember
it
that?
totally does. It totally does.
That kind of silver, and then you got this really thick base. They call it the flint. It has a huge flint. On the bottle. All right, I'm just getting myself a little pour.
It's simple and square, but it's one of those things that just inevitably will stand out on
elegant,
the shelf.
Though.
Yes,
it's very elegant.
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
Beautiful bottle. Okay.
Okay, the Lowlands. This is an area I don't personally drink from as often. So, obviously furthest south. What might we say some general characteristics of the Lowlands might be?
Not known for being peaty, so we can look at that as a starting point. These are not necessarily smoky scotches.
I mean, it's kind of like lighter bodied stuff, right? I mean, it is supposed to be a little bit on the lighter side, but that's really just in body, though. I think we could be looking for a wide variety of flavors, whether it goes into the kind of brighter fruits or maybe a little bit just deeper malts.
Yeah, exactly. And Bladnoch has a pretty storied history as a distillery. It's been opened and closed and bought and sold and reopened. And the most recent, turn of this was 2017. An Australian gentleman by the name of David Pryor bought the distillery. So he's said to be the first Australian to own a Scotch whiskey distillery.
Oh, interesting.
And so he picked it up and then started distilling, and he brought in the former master blender of Macallan. So kind of interesting here. And that's just kind of Nick Savage. Nick Savage was the former master distiller, and he was from Macallan. So
former master distiller of Macallan, but coming and doing a slightly different
dealio here, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a much different turn from Macallan.
Yes, very much so.
So on that nose, what are you getting on the nose on the Bladnoch? This is the 15-year Adela.
Well, it's lovely. It's actually pretty malty on the nose. A little bit of honey, a little bit of brightness, but I actually kind of get the graininess on the nose, which I actually quite like. I
get a ton. And again, this is Oloroso finish. So, and we are at, just so you guys know, we are at 46.7% alcohol.
So you're getting the Oloroso's there.
Oh yeah, and the color too. I mean, this has got a really good, nice mahogany going on.
Yeah, but it's not as red as one might think.
I've got darker Olorosos.
You definitely do.
I've got
you
darker
definitely
Olorosos.
Do. So what I quite like about this is the Oloroso. The sherry is balanced. To me, I actually get much more sherry on the body, and it adds to the body. It actually gives it a nice viscous body.
There's a thickness there.
Yes, indeed.
It's chewy. I like it. Sweet and really, you get you get all these kind of waves of like dates almost, and
I almost get like dried peaches and stone fruits a little bit too.
A little dried fruit.
But it's big on the honey too. It's big on the honey, which is interesting because you would think that a honey type note would fall out. And be overpowered by the Oloroso and the sherry, but that's not what I'm getting.
This would go with like charcuterie.
Oh, 110%.
This would like just totally play.
Ugh.
This is a bold Scotch whiskey to start with. This is not one of the, I think we've got lighter, fluffier, airier, thinner Scotches on the table. But again, going in geographical order,
right.
Not in proof or age or anything like that. So.
And what's interesting here is when you kind of just pop online and you're like, well, what's generally a Lowland Scotch going to give you? They're going to tell you they're generally lighter in body. And this again, every region is going to have some outliers within it. I'm not sure if I would entirely consider this an outlier in its entirety, but it is definitely, like you said, it's a thicker, richer whiskey to enjoy. I mean, it's quite good. I very much like it.
Yeah, I mean, think about that again. This thing has been around since 1817. This is the most recent owner, when he bought it, David Pryor. This was a 200-year-old distillery.
Insane.
So,
Unfathomable when you think about like American craft,
or American history, period.
Yeah,
like,
in general.
Where were we 200 years ago as a country? And there were people at this site, at this distillery, producing Scotch whiskey. And it was founded by John and Thomas McClellan. And again, they were producing from 1823 to 1826. They had made over 130,000 liters of whiskey during that time period. And it's impressive. I mean, just to think about all that. Bladnoch also, this distillery is putting out a whiskey that I actually have had called Pure Scott. That product actually came to the States a little bit before this, and it was just titled a blended Scotch whiskey. They had, I think, 2 expressions, but if you can find Pure Scott. I know that's been around for a while.
Okay.
It's got a painted bottle. It's a bit boxy with a kind of a tapered shoulder to it. Very tall. Very different packaging completely from this. And so, yeah, this is nice. I tried a few of these at a trade show, actually, and I was really impressed with them. And so I picked up a bottle recently, and I'm very happy I did. I would give this Scotch a very solid B+.
That's where I'm at as well.
I'm enjoying it.
I very much enjoy it. I almost think that the honey note is a little bit too forward for me, and I'm looking for a slight bit more of balance. But if you like Oloroso, and if you want to taste something from a distillery with some incredible history and really just sort of round out the collection, I'd recommend.
I think my reasoning for not being an A range whiskey is that it has a bitterness to it and almost a talky sort of chalky finish that kind of doesn't go with the sweetness so much.
Right.
And that big bold nose on it is really the star, I think, of the experience. Is the nose was phenomenal.
Yes.
I give that nose an A+. It was a great nose. It really invites you in to dive in and have a glass. But
yeah,
man, woo,
it's good stuff. Great place to start.
A little bitter. Not gonna be my favorite of the night, I don't think.
Okay, where shall we go next?
We are traveling
Going
along
north.
the countryside, and we're gonna head all the way up to Campbeltown.
Campbeltown. This is a favorite of mine. I'm definitely a Springbank fan.
Now, Campbeltown is just northwest of where we began in the Lowlands. So it's just kind of off. There's a body of water there between them. And again, I've never been to Scotland, so I'm not going to try to pretend I know the names of all these places or what road you take to get there. But, if I can't go to Scotland, I can at least travel the country vis-a-vis through some whiskey from those regions. So what do we got, Cam?
Yeah, so there's a couple different Springbanks out there. I've owned a handful myself. I actually have never owned this one in particular. This is the Springbank 9 Local Barley. And like you said earlier, this is at cask strength. This is 57.7%. And I've always, I think their bottle is very, very elegant. So it's distilled from barley that's grown on the Kittir
don't ask
Peninsula. So that's within a couple miles of the distillery.
That could be the body of water between them and the Lowland
There
region.
you go. So yeah, I mean they're definitely very hands-on. They're a small distillery. They are everything's kind of done on site. And actually, so especially since this one says local barley, they're listing the barley source. So that's the High Cattadale Farm, and the barley type is Optic. I do not know anything about that barley type, but it is interesting that they are listing the barley type. Do you know anything about it? Okay, fair enough.
Absolutely not. But here's what I can tell you. Springbank Distillery is also the producer of both Long Row, which I know you love, Cam.
Oh, I do love Long Row.
And Hazelburn.
Yes.
So both of those are coming out of Springbank Distillery as well. So 3 labels, 1 distillery. And this bottle we have today is 57.7%.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with that's probably barrel strength or barrel proof.
They're pretty darn close.
It doesn't state that on there, but maybe they don't need to. Maybe it's just kind of known.
Yeah.
You just need to know. And this is one of 9,700 bottles.
Yeah, so, I've been a big fan of the Springbank 10. It's kind of their entry level. It's approachable. I've owned a bottle of the Springbank 12, which is sherried.
I've tried the Cask Strength 12.
Yeah, the Cask Strength 12. Very, very good. So I think I had this with you a while back, but I don't remember.
I gave you a sample of this once.
Yeah.
We've broken. We were like celebrating a good episode, and we
were
enjoyed it with this.
So yeah, I mean Campbeltown is small. It's a small region. Is it the smallest region overall?
In terms of number of distilleries, or
I think so,
geographically?
like number of distilleries. Right, because Glen Scotia's out there. And
I have a Glen Scotia on the wall.
Yep.
I don't have a Glen Gyle, but I think that's pretty much. There may be a couple others, but that might be it actually for
and I think
Campbeltown
I think
distilleries.
because of how few distilleries there are, there is a uniqueness to Campbeltown. I mean, to not just lump it in with one of the other regions, it has to have something very distinct about it. A lot of people talk about some lighter body caramel, but also kind of getting a little bit of that salinity, we're now starting to get a little bit further north and just ever so slight saltiness.
I mean, this thing
through.
Almost looks like an island on its own. It's pretty well surrounded by lots of water. So
the peninsula. Okay, well, let's dive in.
All right. Oh, and the Arran seems to be very close to that region as well.
I do like Arran as well.
Arran is good. I've got 1 Arran, and I need to add some more Arran to the collection.
See, that's the thing. It does have this sea brininess that's almost reminiscent of Islay. Not quite.
Well,
not quite.
It's produced geographically very damn close.
Right.
So,
but it's not.
You're on that
exactly
southwest
there.
You're in the southwest, side of the country. You're not even at the halfway. You're not at the equator of the country, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's this isn't peated, right? And this is definitely not sherried because this is quite yellow, light yellow.
It might be the youngest whiskey on the table too at 9 years. So from here we're going 10, we're going 13, 14, 12.
I mean, it's a lovely nose. I wouldn't say it's an immediately approachable nose. Like, you need to know, like, kind of what you're walking into to kind of get that.
You can smell the
briny
proof.
Smokiness, yeah.
You can smell the proof on it. I'm smelling 57 to 60 proof here.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, percent. I can't speak when I'm sober. Okay. First sip. Woo. That's a little smoky. Earthy.
That's a lot smoky.
That's a lot delicious.
It is. Gosh, it even reminds me of like a younger Kalila. You know? I very much enjoy that smoky brininess that's there, but there's a grit to the graininess on the back end as well. And the proof, obviously, is really helping round it out.
This is a stop what you're doing and think about me whiskey. This is one where it sits on your tongue, and it's kind of hanging out there for a while. This is lingering tremendously in a way that it's going to take me a second just to get through. I didn't pour that much. I poured a couple drops here. This is
a big not messing around
whiskey. This is going to be 3 sips for me, the amount I poured. But each one of those sips is going to be a couple minutes. And I'm sorry to say, we might have to sit through that because I'm not going to pour this out. But my goodness, this is complex. There's a lot of different compounds in there that are really kind of coming to life.
Absolutely. There's some bright floral notes too. They're definitely they're on the front end and they dissipate quickly as you go back into the smoke. But if you really, really kind of pick out a little bit of green apple right on the front, a little bit of like this florally note, but but it very quickly delves into that smoke.
I get like a burnt vanilla, like a vanilla that's been caramelized, like a vanilla bean cooked kind of a thing, which is not something I've ever eaten, but it just feels like it's got this like a baked dough sort of. It's not bready though. That's the thing. It's not bready.
It's grainy, if anything. It's not bready.
Grainy, yeah. It's a little like chewing on. Have you ever like taken a barley grain, like chewing on a barley grain?
Actually chewed on it, yeah.
I did that in Portland once, and it's a really great way to kind of get an example of from this to whiskey. This is the process, and you chew on the grain, and you drink the distiller's beer, and you kind of go along the process and taste it at every stage.
Yeah, the sweetness is nice. It is definitely a little bit of that more complex vanilla. It's not like a bright vanilla. It's more like like you said, the bean itself.
A little grassy too. There's like I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's what I was trying to get after with that floral-y note. Because there's definitely a freshness on the front with this brighter sweetness. It's not quite honey. It's almost like a very, very, very light molassesy thing.
I'm not getting really much sweetness.
Right on the front. Nothing?
Very little for me. I don't get honey or any real like indicators of sweet. This is a drier whiskey to me.
Well, it finishes dry.
The finish is really dry, and I keep coming back to the finish.
Very, very, very nice.
This is a really cool finish. It's doing things to your tongue that very few whiskeys do. They don't. It's doing things most whiskeys don't.
Yeah.
It's playing a nice little game back there on my tongue.
I'm still in the B+ range. I think there are other examples from Springbank that I have had in the past that have dipped into the A- that I quite like. I think it's very, very interesting as an Islay alternative. You know, if you like a little bit of that kind of smoky, briny, but you don't want to go punch you in the face peat, and you want to explore something slightly different than that region, I think this is an excellent place to explore.
It's an Islay substitute or an adjacent sort of style.
Very much so.
It's hard to grade because would I like it if it were sherry cask finish or a little older? Maybe. Do they make that? Yeah.
Yeah, they have a sherry.
But do I like this one? Yeah, I really like this. This is really good. And I've enjoyed this every time I've tried it. But today, really thinking about it critically and like, what are my true, honest to God feelings?
Great scotches. Like this is
like an 89, like a B+, 89. It's not an A today, right now.
Yeah.
It was an A last time. I would say the last time I drank this and really got into it and had a glass, proper glass, I was thinking this is an A. I love this thing. I showed it off to you.
I know you did.
I showed it to you, and I was like, you got to try this whiskey. It's so effing good. And you're like, yeah, this is really fucking good. I'm all about this. And then now I'm trying it right now, and for whatever reason, I'm just not getting the same emotions about it that I had last time. And that happens, people. That happens with whiskey. It's the mood you're in. It's what you ate for lunch. It's the color of the sky that day.
Well, the one thing I will say that I tried to do when coming into this episode is like, I said it up front, like we are Scotch fans, which is stupid that we haven't done as many Scotch episodes. We need to up our Scotch consumption significantly. But I also didn't want to walk into this episode and just say, oh, I'm Cameron. I'm a lover of Scotch. They're all A's, I did. I wanted to be a little bit more critical.
Not all Scotches are A's, though. That's
Of course. But you've picked some good ones, though. And I will say this. I will take this over the first Scotch.
I'm like tied. They both, if I want sherry and a lighter like proof, I'll go with the first one. I could probably drink more of the first one.
True.
And with this,
finish is nice.
I can't drink as much of it, but every sip counts.
So
like you don't need as much of it, first of all, because it's literally 11% higher. So let's get into now, and this is where we're kind of like jumping all over here, is an Islay or Islay.
I like Islay.
I always liked Islay as well. I remember hearing a Scottish person I know quite well say Islay.
Was that Big Willie?
Is Big Willie's dad.
Oh, the Big Willie.
I have to go back and listen to what he calls it when we do that episode, right? Ardbeg 10. I told the story on another podcast, so I won't tell it here, but I have experiences with Ardbeg where you drink it and, man, people think you've been out smoking cigarettes or something, because this is one of those whiskeys, those peated whiskeys, and I'm going with a new glass on this one. Given what's next with the Craigellachie and the Oban, those are not going to want the peat in the glass from this Ardbeg, and even if I wash it with water, it may not be enough.
Normally, we would suggest our listeners to end with this, but we're gonna stick to our original plan.
I'm not gonna divert at all. Ardbeg is such a cool company. Like the stuff they release, like they did a pirate one recently called Ardbeg.
Oh, and we did a video on Wee Beastie.
Yeah, we did a little review on YouTube, or you can go check out our YouTube channel at Cartel Hour or our Instagram. We have some videos up on Wee Beastie.
Yep.
Then, yeah, but we're back to basics. This is
entry level
starting point of the Ardbeg brand. And Wee Beastie is, I think, around the same price, but it's half the age. And this is 46%. Now, the whole thing about Islay or Scotch whiskeys are younger is probably where you want to be at. You know, there are 25, 30-year-old Lafroigs and Ardbegs that have come out. And they're very highly reviewed, and they're beautiful packaging, and they're pricey as all hell. I mean, they're really, really expensive. But the concept, I mean, I've got 2 Octomores up on the shelf from Craigellachie that are also Islay, and the younger ones are simply delicious. People are really coming around to the fact that younger, there's overaging. Peat doesn't want to be...
Yes. Especially peated. I mean, that's I think not necessarily across the board with Scotch, but certainly with Islay, the peat remains brighter, and it ages out slightly weird. Whereas a lot of the other regions that just maybe ex-bourbons, their regular stuff, you're going to probably want to steer towards the 10, 12, 13, 14. That's kind of your sweet spot. And what's interesting about that is it differs pretty significantly from, say, for example, like American bourbon, right? Which is even younger than that for its sweet spot.
Yeah. I mean, American bourbon really has a sweet spot between 8 and 12. And then after 12, people really are coming out, maybe because they're fed up with paying high prices and they're trying to drive that back through all kinds of... But you can have a lot
of 4 years, 4 years, 6...
That's because of availability more than anything. People want to make money and get their product on the market. Sure. But no, now you have a lot of people that are commonly telling you, like, look, you put this in a new charred oak barrel as a bourbon. So those flavors are going to start to turn on you at 15 to 20 years. According to some. Sure. Would I want to drink a 27-year-old Scotch or bourbon?
I'd like to try it.
Hell yeah.
I'd like to try it.
Pour it up. Pour it up. I'm in. But with Scotch whiskey, I mean, beautiful 25, 30-year-olds up on the shelf here in front of us. And while those are not maybe the most exemplary of the region because they've got a little edge, we tried to pick whiskeys that are either the entry-level offering or at least the offering that is most well-known, the brand, and then the best bottle we had of that on the shelf here today. I've got the Wee Beastie from Ardbeg. I've got the Corey Vrecken bottle, and I've tried several others at trade shows and whiskey events and stuff like that. So
tell me your thoughts on this Ardbeg 10.
Ardbeg 10 is, I think it's like between 40 and 50 or 40 and 60 bucks roughly, depending on, where you are and what kind of store. But it's a staple, like classic Islay Scotch whiskey. It's got that real briny iodine sort of nose to it. You get a little bit of you almost get like a seaweed.
Yeah, you get like oysters and kelp and
The Kelpie seaweed thing is really, and they even do one called Kelpie. That's one of the labels that they have at Ardbeg.
And what's interesting too there is it's not this Ardbeg 10 isn't overly campfire, like it's peat on
tobacco.
the nose.
There's a tobacco element here.
Yeah, but then it also plays with like some brighter notes because if you actually look at the color on this might be the lightest Scotch that we're going to taste this evening.
Yeah, it's right. It's right over there with the Craigellachie. The
straw.
Craigellachie is pretty light too.
Yeah.
No specific finish on this. I would imagine these are used bourbon barrels or used. It's not sherry. It's not a.
No. I mean, this is like light lemon zest and a light apple, light pear, and then
you get apple and lemon on this.
Absolutely, right on the nose, and then it just punches right back into the peat.
I don't get any of it. I don't get those fruit.
Oh, I do, because a really good peated whiskey needs to have. It shouldn't be a peat bomb, right? It needs to have some kind of balance. It reminds me a little bit of the Raskin from a knock, which again played in these brighter kind of fruit notes, and then boom, just slides right into the peat.
Nope, I'm not getting the lemon.
Fair enough.
No,
Do you get a little honey sweetness? I mean, there's definitely there's a middle to something has to be there to balance out the peat.
There are sugars at play.
I mean, I've had peatier scotches than that.
Oh,
for
hell
sure.
Yeah. No, but I really am getting those sort of tobacco leaf. You ever seen you're right there with a fresh rolled cigar.
So it's like a little earthy for you?
On the finish, it's earthy, but it's very. I get that seaweed sort of a nose, and I really get sort of a mild sweet front, a very earthy middle, and a nice kind of. The finish is quite pleasant, honestly.
We're vastly different on this one.
Yeah, no, I'm
because I don't get any earth in the middle. All my sweetness is in the middle, and the finish isn't as. I would love this to finish much drier, like the Springbank.
No, the Springbank was much drier.
Oh, in this one, it kind of just ends on this ever so slightly cloying note.
The sweet comes back, but it's not cloying sweet. It's not like it's not super
dry.
sweet.
It's not dry.
Yeah, but cloying is.
Right, but it's what I'm using cloying as the opposite of dry. Right, we've gone away from the dryness and we've gone to a little bit like a sweeter, more rounded finish. But it is, for me, it's a bit cloying of a finish.
I don't get that.
Fair enough.
I don't get it.
So
you
for
poured
me,
the Ardbeg, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
What's your grade on it? This is the part in the show where I have a cracker.
Yeah, it probably should be. Honestly, I'm an Ardbeg fan, and yes. This is a great intro to Islay because I don't think it's actually going to offend as many people as some of the bigger, bolder, peatier, more well-balanced with the peat. I'm a B-.
Agree.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Our tasting notes are
vastly different, but we ended up in the same.
I'm at an 80,
yeah.
8 out of 10. 80.
There's just better Ardbegs out there. There's just better Ardbegs.
I would take Wee Beastie at a 5-year.
Oh, easy.
Immediately over this.
Immediately.
I don't know what the substantial differences are besides age, and I think slightly different on the percentage proof. But
Wee Beastie is a lot peatier.
But, dude, Corey Vrecken, the other one I've got there, is better than both of those. I mean, I'd say Wee Beastie is a solid high B. And I would say the Corey Vrecken that I've had is B+. And the other ones I've tried have also been probably more memorable or enjoyable than this. This one is just
fine.
There. It's there. It does what it set out to do.
Well, that's entry level for you, right? I mean,
I'd say
there's better entry levels.
I'd say strip the 10-year, blend it with some of the younger stuff, see what happens, and then
give it some punch
and
then
dry
it out
save
a bit.
the 10-year age statement for like a freaking single barrel at cask strength. Nobody wants my suggestions on this. I think they're doing just fine without my thoughts.
Fair enough.
All right, where are we going? We are moving further north. We're getting out of the southern hemisphere of this country, and we are moving on up Speyside. We're going to head a little bit northeast, and we're going to try the Craigellachie. And this is one of the earlier bottles of Scotch I ever picked up.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those that does stand out.
Now, careful with the cork. I haven't opened this in a while, so twist, 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 and then pull and see if you can get that out. We good?
We are good.
This is like one of those bottles that the cork totally could have.
It's wet. It's wet. I think you're good.
Good.
Now I'm all scared of touching it. I don't want to mess with your Scotch. All right.
Craigellachie, 13-year-old Speyside single malt whiskey.
Now, I think Speyside is one of those regions that a lot of people, some people who gravitate towards Scotch, they pick a favorite region, and I think the favorite regions are definitely spread out among people, but the Speyside is one of the ones that people do tend to gravitate towards.
There's a lot of Speysides.
Yes,
it's a big production region.
It boasts the highest concentration of whiskey distilleries anywhere on the planet. 49 in total. So Balvenie, Glen Grant, Glenlivet, Macallan, of course, is one of the best well known. It's part of, if you were going to do Scotland's Malt Whiskey Trail, this is definitely a part of that.
You could probably spend a couple weeks there on your own.
You could just do Speysides. So, a lot of times this is, more round, sweeter drams, and a little bit of earthiness as well. So, and a lot of people do like it for their just general complexity. Speysides do tend to be a little bit on the complex side without, pushing forward into, say, for example, like peat. Like Islay goes all in on peat. Like this is a little bit of kind of everything, and it balances.
People that tell me they don't like Scotch, I give them Speyside Scotch.
Right.
Because it is so well balanced on the whole, and not every one of them is as good as the next, but I've got bottles of Balvenie that I love. I love Adela. I love my Glenfarclas. I mean, it would have been really easy to pick all of those, but I think this, quaint little 13-year-old Craigellachie is a nice kind of long-standing example. They've been around since 1891. They are old school Speyside. It's a cool bottle. I mean, this is a really shout out to the designers. The Stranger and Stranger design on this bottle is really top notch.
Yeah.
But man, Speyside. I mean, I've been drinking a lot of Clynelish. It's just.
I actually had a cast strength Craigellachie a couple months back that I ended up polishing off because it was great.
This is where I spend most of my time. Most of my Scotch drinking is in Speyside.
And, I think when most people think of at least a non-peated Scotch, when they're thinking of a non-peated Scotch, they're thinking Speyside.
It tingles the nose. Well, Highlands really popular. A lot of it's really down the middle on the popularity of these two. Like Highlands, you think of the big brands out there, and most of those Glens are either Speyside or Highland.
A lot of Glens. I mean, it's not a crazy nose. It's a little bit sweet, a little bit bright, a little bit zesty.
It's warm and inviting still. It's really nice. It's just you can live in there.
I actually get a lot of the cask on this. Like I get a lot of little bit of like oaky bourbony.
Little baking like baking bread or something in there.
Yeah.
I could smell that for a few minutes. I think that's my second favorite nose after the Oloroso. But if you're talking non-sherry cask finish, this is the best nose of the last four.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. Very nutty. Very nutty. It does, because Abelauer tends to have that nuttiness too. It's like a caramelized nuttiness that's just lovely. And to me, this is like pie crust and like bread crust. It's just like that.
With like a hint of like tartness to it at the front, and then it has some bitter notes, but they are bitter like a well-placed bitter in a cocktail bitter. Like it's coming in right when it's supposed to, right on cue, and then it kind of fades out. And as you finish and you linger, like, okay, sitting here, I've been talking since I had that first sip, and it's still.
It's the most balanced finish too, because it's dry without being super dry.
It's a medium dry. It's like a very medium dry.
Right there. And that's really how I want my scotches to finish. I really love that. Just nice medium dry.
Something we have not talked about is this has mouthfeel. The mouthfeel on this is really notable. Listeners of the show that know me and know my descriptions at this point have heard me say buttery or oily or fatty or containing lots of sort of that viscosity and thickness. And that first one had a lot of viscosity, but I think it was just weighted with frickin' wine, characteristics of that Oloroso. But this is weighty in the sense of it's got dense sort of. I
mean, it takes me back to the way that the Springbank would just sit on the back of the tongue. I think that's the thing I like the most about the Springbank is that finish, that mouthfeel is impeccable. This just coats right on the middle of the tongue, right on the cheeks, and then it sits. But it doesn't have the proof that the Springbank had, so it doesn't linger quite as long. Because what are we at? 43, 46? Yeah, okay.
This and the Ardbeg were both 46.
Got it. Which is a great proof. It's a great proof. It's nicely balanced. As
I get to my third and fourth sip on this Craigellachie, it's a little hot, actually.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I'm finally getting a little bit, as I drink more of it, the sharp tartness is turning into almost a alcohol heat that is, honestly, that first sip, I'm like, oh my God, is this an A range whiskey? And as I keep sipping it, I think to some of the other Speysides and, is this the most exemplary? If I was showing someone Speyside and I had one chance to win them over on Speyside or Scotch whiskey in general, I don't know if this is it for me.
Interesting.
I'd go to my Glenfarclas 105 or Glenfarclas 17 or 25 or some of those really nice bottles I've picked up. And again, much more expensive than this, but yeah, even Glenrothes, Glenrothes 12 is probably
really what's this run?
40%. I don't know the price. I can
because I want to know that. I mean, I thought this is their entry level.
What would you pay for this? Let me ask you that.
I'd go. I actually really like this, Seth. Like, I might go to like 70 on this, 60 to 70, man.
Craigellachie is 60.
Yeah,
$60 for the 13.
At $60, that's not bad.
Massive jump to their 17-year, 23-year, and they have a 33-year, and they in 31 and all that. But those
they have some old stuff.
They jump to the several hundred and up. I mean, this is the only thing
to 4 digits
under.
Probably.
This is the only bottle under $180, $150.
I like this. I like this a lot.
I almost want to grab other Speysides and have you try them.
Well,
just
look, I'm an Abelauer fan. I have a great
Abelauer
Abanad at home. And the Abanad Alba, which is the ex-bourbon. So that would be very similar to this. But it's an $80 bottle. It's at cask strength.
That's Abunad's a sherry bomb, and Abunad Alba.
Yes, is the Alba is the ex-bourbon. Yeah,
ex-bourbon.
And I love that bottle. Not everyone agrees with me, though.
It's better than
Not
this.
everyone agrees with
Both
me. It's
of those
very
Abelauers.
much better.
I have an Abelauer 16-year up there, which would have also been a good.
I mean, look, if you're just going to be like, look, for $20 more, would you get Abelauer? I would say yes. But I like this. I think it's very, 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 very good.
Ultimately, I am at a B, like 86 on this. I'm like strong B, but not B plus, only because I don't want to put out that this is the best representative of Speyside. I think I would lean towards so many other Speysides I've come to love and enjoy that this is not the bottle I grab first from Speyside. But
that's fair.
It is a very, historical and quintessential Speyside in the eyes of Speyside. It's definitely one of the ones that, it's out there. $60. It's available in a lot of stores. It's
at
not
13 years. I'm so want to give it an A-. I so want to give it an A-. I don't think I will. But
you're gonna
good
drink,
God,
but
it is
A-,
on
you're
there.
gonna drink that over the Springbank?
No, I won't.
Yeah. So how could you grade it higher?
I know. You called me out on it. Fine. It's a B+, but good God, it's close.
Are you at all B pluses today, except for the B minus and the Ardbeg?
I mean, my favorite on the table so far, I still have to go Springbank. I'm a big fan. It definitely does edge this out a little bit. I just want to give a lot of credit to this Craigellachie. I quite like it. I would also, for me, I've also owned a bottle of Cask Strength and independent bottling of Craigellachie that I very, very much liked.
Well, it's no knock on the distillery. I mean, it's just purely,
so if you can find it, like, go for it.
The score is relegated to this bottle. So let's do the Highland. We're gonna kind of travel not north, but actually just west, and we're gonna go to Highland. And Highland is the other kind of big region. There's quite a few distilleries, and Oban is everywhere. I mean, this was kind of
you can't miss this bottle.
I've seen this bottle everywhere for years.
I've never owned a bottle of the Oban 14. I've owned other Obans. I've seen it in Cask Strength versions and enjoyed it. I've never had this one. Actually, I've also never owned an Ardbeg 10. I've owned other Ardbegs, but
I just bought kind of like haphazardly.
I mean, you kind of gotta have it, if you want to just, like I said, it's a great introductory to Islay. But, great. So, what are we generally looking for in Highlands? Like you said, it's another one of those really, really popular regions. One that probably goes up against Speyside in terms of, just general popularity, what people gravitate towards. It is the largest region itself. It's not the one with the most distilleries, but in terms of like land mass, it is the largest region, and it's very diverse because of that. So less distilleries over a larger area means that Highlands probably maybe the most difficult to sort of pin down general.
47 distilleries in Highland comparatively. There's 49.
Right, so it's far less
huge,
concentrated.
But it's still huge in terms of number of. It's neck and neck. Right?
Yeah, so in terms of numbers. So I think here, you're going to kind of be looking for a little bit of everything. You can even get some smoky Highlands. You can get some really sweet, rich Highlands. In general, you're definitely going to be looking for complexity like you would in the Speyside. And sometimes you're actually, there are some places doing peat-fired kilns as well. So Islay isn't the only place doing peat. You can still get a little peat coming into the Highlands as well. And some people would say that Highlands tend to be, they could be the fruitiest.
Yeah, they're certainly, in my mind and in my eyes, the lightest and the least complex, but that's maybe unfair. And okay, so here we are talking about Aberfeldy, Ardmore, Balblair, Ben Nevis, Dalmore, Deanston, Glengoyne, Glengeary, Macduff, so many Highland Scotches, Tullibardine, Wolfburn, the list goes on. And so, again, 47.
Oh, you gave me a Wolfburn recently.
Wolfburn Cask Strength, I've got their long skip.
I very much liked that.
It's not the coolest bottle, per se. The design's whatever, but it's a solid pour. But anyways, I digress. We're talking straight up Oban Highland. This is owned by Diageo, by the way. This is pretty corporate, and that's probably why it's so phenomenally distributed. Yeah, like this thing is in every Costco and everything. So you'll find this people that are like, oh, I'm a Scotch person. This is the bottle they have because they think they're into Scotch, but it's very entry level. It's sub $100 bottle. Now, Oban's been releasing a couple different things that start to get exciting, but we are again trying the 14.
Yeah, I want to try this 14 because this
is the flagship, and it's
like I said, never owned it.
43%, 86 proof. Ooh, the nose is
much more caramelly.
I was getting honey.
Yeah.
I was getting sugars, but I was getting honey sugars, like honeycomb almost. Now here I get a little apple on the nose. crisp, like honey crisp apple.
See, for me, this is like a little bit more stone fruit peachy. Like apple, and granted,
Or pear.
when I say apple, I think like bright green apple. It's a light acidic apple.
It almost tastes like a white wine. It has a very like Chardonnay like vibe to it. It's really
Well, its finish is not dry. Well, if you want to go into a little bit more buttery, this is buttery.
That's why I'm saying Chardonnay. It's a buttery Chardonnay.
Yeah,
of
bread and
whiskeys.
butter. This is bread and butter. This is straight up bread and butter.
It's really got that little like spike at the front of that fruity sort of like boom, California Chardonnay. Like this is familiar almost in that way. I think this would taste really well out of the freezer, like super cold. Could sip this over ice even. As like a refreshing summer scotch, you know?
Yeah, it's not.
Like a poolside scotch, like a little fruit in the glass with a little ice and this and like a little umbrella, maybe some short shorts.
Oh, now you're talking.
Now we got a
there we
plan.
go.
Cameron's got a pool, people. Let's go over there.
Let's go. Bring some Oban. Its finish is sweeter, like some of those flavors that you're describing. I do get that kind of like floral honey. You know, there's different types of honey. It's a bit of a floral honey, a little bit brighter. I'm struggling with this one. I'm not a huge fan.
It's very refreshing. I mean, this is kind of waking me back up a little bit. This is brightening my palate. I feel like I'm cleansing with like a refreshing sort of this almost it's weird
There's
because
a nice sweet maltiness, but
14-year-old, but it almost feels like it needs to be used in certain ways, like in a cocktail or something. I would make a cocktail with this.
I would too. I would too, and for me, I'm a big neat Scotch drinker, so that's so to say. Granted, you know, I know that's very biased, but like,
there's no wrong way to drink, man.
There isn't, but at the price point, I mean, this Oban's going to cost you the same as it's going to cost you almost as much as the Craigellachie.
They're around the same price. They're between 50 and
exactly.
70.
And I'll take the Craigellachie over this any day.
Really?
Oh yes, absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah. And we diverge.
What's new, right? No, the Craigellachie to me was really it fell short in terms of my Speyside. My Speyside loves like my Glenfarclas, but this Oban, this is this is certainly it's a lovely scotch. I actually really enjoy it. It's very easy to drink, and maybe that's a good thing, a bad thing. I think
Fair enough.
The 43% is quite right on this.
Actually, I'd love to see it at 46 and see if it gets grippier and drier.
Oh, there are cask strength Obans out there. I've seen 55 something. I've seen some stuff out there. They did all the Diageo brands got together and did that whole Game of Thrones series.
Oh, right, yep.
I've got a few of those, like Dalwhinnie, and I think they did a Lagavulin, and then they also have
they definitely did a
Singleton, which is another Scotch. Man, so many. So I'm at a B+ on this. It's very enjoyable, very fresh tasting to me. Quite light, but quite nice. You know,
fair enough.
Complex at the 43%. You're at like a C minus.
No, God, I won't go that low. It's a B- for me. It's not my favorite. There are better representations. I have my beefs and flaws with it.
Agree to disagree.
Fair enough. And that's what our listeners probably love at this point.
All right, so we are moving forward here, coming up on the very last stop on our trip through Scotland, and we are going to be drinking from the islands, which include things like the Isle of Jura and Talisker. Maybe most notably or most popular in mainstream is Highland Park, and don't get it twisted.
Think it's a Highland.
It's not a Highland. It is an island.
Why
whiskey.
they had to do this? It's very confusing.
Yeah,
it confused both of us for a long time.
Well,
and we are spirits people.
And you know what it is? Honestly, it's what's in a name, and so I'm sure there's a very specific reason why they chose the name Highland Park for a island whiskey. But we are drinking some 12-year-old Highland Park cask strength. And I looked this up, Cameron. This bottle is actually aged in sherry-seasoned American oak casks.
Which should explain it's not quite sherry color, but it's far richer color.
Well, sherry-seasoned, these aren't, sherry casks.
Right.
These are American oak casks, maybe ex-bourbon, that then rested with some sherry in them. There's a whole production of sherry that is only for the purpose of flavoring barrels and is never actually drank.
And this is the highest percentage on the table, too.
Yes.
63.3%.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, let me repeat that so our listeners can let that sink in. 63.3. This is probably the strongest Scotch I've had in a very, very long time.
Yes. This is I'm just aerating the glass a little bit at this proof. I really want to burn off. When you get into these high proof and you get into neck pours at 63.3, your hand should be going, and you should be turning this whiskey and getting some air in there for at least a minute or two, because you really want to let the vapors, the ethanol of the alcohol kind of burn out and get out of that glass.
Well, it's a very pretty bottle. It's very recognizable that it's a custom bottle that, have all this gorgeous, almost like tattoo art all over it.
It's very tribal. It's got, and they do these whole series with like these Viking sort of things and Loki, and they have, I think if Thor from the Thor movies was a real person in real life, he would drink Highland Park.
100%.
Yeah, he'd like come down to earth and drink Highland Park. And like do it with like a glass of lightning or some shit. Like he would do it that way with like the hammer and all that, because they're very big into the whole Norse mythology.
It's a richer, darker nose than I was expecting for the color.
Crazy nose,
crazy,
Woo! Great nose. I mean,
and it's not hot.
No,
I mean you feel it.
The
but
other
it's not
ones,
hot.
the Craigellachie had a sharper nose than this to me. This is like gorgeous. Ladies and gentlemen, we might have a winner here. This is, could be the alcohol talking, but. Holy moly. Ooh, that came in hot, but now it's doing things.
Oh, but it's big.
It's doing things.
Oh, but it's big.
It's
whoa.
Little roller coaster there.
Oh my gosh!
Gotta
it's a
ride
little bit
it.
Of everything.
Gotta ride it.
It's a little bit plums and dates. It's a little bit. It's got this grippy graininess that's really lovely. I mean, a lot of times when you have a single malt, we're talking single malt. That means barley. I want to taste the barley, and I taste the barley here.
I almost get hints of peat. I get like little smoky notes.
It's a little smoky.
I get a little bit of toffee, like a little
yes. Dark chocolate. Ooh,
dark chocolate and toffee in the middle there. And as I'm still on that first sip and I'm letting it kind of do its thing, you almost get cloves, like little spice notes, like almost a numbing thing going on.
Yeah, like a little bit of herbal.
Like anise, like
clovey
thing,
yeah.
At the end, at the very end. In the beginning, it was all big, semi-sweet chocolate, kind of bittersweet chocolate. There's bittersweet chocolate chips, like those.
Yeah, like burnt caramel for sure. Wow, that's fucking good. I'll have to leave that in there.
Sweet nothings from Cameron.
That's fucking good, man. God, fuck, that's good.
Talk to me, whiskey.
Oh yeah.
Tell me everything. I think we've found ourselves an agreeable A. Damn, and what's
it's
funny
so good.
is
it's chewy but it finishes dry, which is nice, and there's this spiciness to it, but there's also this like lovely like burnt sweetness and tobacco, and
it
then
dries out still, and so nicely does it kind of go sweet, then bittersweet, then dry.
So
this is freaking good.
That's so good.
Maybe we should just
That's
drink
an
cask
A,
strength
man.
whiskey from now on.
That's an A. That's an
because you're not holding anything back. You get the whole everything that went in coming right back out of the glass.
That chocolate, that grippy cacao. It's like a bitter chocolate.
63.3. It's But it's like hints of chocolate. It's not beat you over the head. I mean,
No, it's like it's the cacao. So which the cacao doesn't actually taste very much like chocolate, right? It's this bitter, roasty, nutty.
it's like that chocolate
chocolatey
powder, like on its own, not like mixed in with like milk or anything. It's like a chocolate
Absolutely.
powder that you get, and it dries out at the end really nicely. And there's like a little thin line of smoke from start to finish that kind of just sits there, and it's just part of the whole thing.
It just hangs out. It's like, hello, I'm here along the journey. Seth, this is one of the best, whiskeys in general that I've had in a very long time. Scotch.
That's a bold
bourbon
statement.
I mean, this is very, very,
I like
very,
this a
very
lot.
good.
I wouldn't go that far, but
Really? Okay.
it's very good. I mean, I've got a plethora of Scotch whiskey that I own, and then there's a plethora of it that I think is as good, if not better than this. But it doesn't mean it's not a fantastic entry-level cask strength Scotch whiskey from the islands. And this is the northernmost Scotch whiskey distillery. Did you know that?
Like, geographically, period. It's the most northern.
I mean, this whole thing is about geography, right? We are traveling. We are adventurers.
I thought it was about the Scotch.
We are explorers of Scotland today, and we are drinking.
So it's the coldest.
Logically, that sounds
Yeah,
right.
right?
I'm not gonna.
I wonder if that has
I'm not
anything
gonna debate or counter that.
Yeah.
But it is the northernmost Scotch distillery in Kirkwall, Orkney Island. It's owned by Edrington, which also owns Macallan, of course. And actually, they also own Wyoming Whiskey.
Really?
A little American company you might have heard of. But yeah, no, it's very
good.
This
Very,
goes
very good.
all the way back to 1826.
1826.
So this is actually even older than like Craigellachie, for example.
Yeah.
So, but
So-
the old Bladnoch still, I think
Bladnoch was the
might
oldest.
be one of the
That's
oldest.
17 what?
Well, no. This one's Ardbeg's 1815. Bladnoch dates back to 1817. So
Bladnoch is 7. Okay.
we got some early 18-teen distilleries on the table, but 1828. Yeah, these
It's old, man.
Oban 1794.
That's I knew there was a 17.
1794. Yeah, that
Oldest
might
on
be
the
the
table
oldest.
is the Oban.
But just think about the history. America was just getting its freaking like it was just coming into its like infancy at that
And
point.
they were just like, yo,
as a
let's make some
country.
Scotch.
And they were like, yeah, while they're doing that, we're just gonna make the Scotch.
So what do you want to leave people with about Scotch?
The entire category.
Well, I mean, what were your thoughts on, how they might choose a region, overarching, like, we've explored regions. So how might one
There you go.
navigate the regions?
Let me ask you the question.
Okay.
You drank from all the regions of Scotland today. What is your takeaway from the regionality of the Scotch you tried? And also, what would you tell listeners about the regions of Scotch and suggest to someone who's maybe just getting their bearings, just getting to grips with Scotch?
Yeah.
And they've been drinking American Jack Daniels their whole life, and they're like, okay, I'm going to do this, but like, what the hell is Highland? What the hell is Speyside? What do these things mean?
That's an interesting question. I would say that, look, going single malt, which is, again, 100% malted barley, you're going to get a different type of spirit in general. So to a certain extent, there is this through line through every bottle that we've tasted of this pure malted barley graininess. First, you have to decide if you like that. If you do, don't be scared of these, these Scotch old wives' tales, right? Scotch is too smoky. Scotch is too this, that, or the other thing. I mean, I do think generally people call it like, it's too smoky for me. Quite frankly, there are many different types of Scotch that are not that. There's lighter, fruitier.
Half the whiskeys we tried today
Exactly.
were smoke free. They were devoid of all smoke.
Indeed.
Virgin lungs, as they might say.
I would say if you like, different types of charcuterie, try some Scotch with it. It's an underrated pairing. And also, I'm a big Campbeltown fan, so if you like Islay and you want to get something a little bit different that is in the same ballpark but not quite the same, explore some of the Campbeltown Scotches.
Sure. The few that there are.
Indeed.
I would say this. We haven't even discussed blended Scotch whiskey really on the show today.
Right.
And there are several of those, and several of those actually end up blending from different regions. So a little bit of Islay, a little bit of Smoky, a little bit of Speyside, a little bit of Highland, all going in. And there's so many like distilleries out there that end up producing stuff that rarely ever gets seen on its own distillery release. It goes into private bottlings or independent bottlings or blends. It just never makes it on the market. They don't have those budgets. They produce whiskey and it gets bought. They make their money and they go home. And that's it. Right?
Right.
So for those listening, if these regions haven't inspired you to try one or multiple of them, maybe the best starting place for you as a listener is a blend. Maybe you want to go try a Johnny Walker or I don't know, Shackleton, or which is, you know, saw that at a Smart & Final. So if they have it at Smart & Final, it's out there. Or maybe you're more, you know, into a Compass Box release, something special.
Yeah, that's some good blended stuff at Compass Box.
There's blended, there's single malt, there's all these things. We drank single malt today. We really tried to drink what Scotland is about, which is single malt whiskey. But blended whiskeys, there's single grain whiskeys, there's stuff coming out of Scotland that isn't malted barley, and they're all fascinating categories. We're not really covering them today, but maybe we will in a short while. Maybe we'll do an episode on blended Scotch whiskeys and drink through some Johnny Walker stuff. It's all part of the experience. It's all part of the journey of trying spirits, trying whiskeys, exploring regions, exploring cultural and historical aspects about these distilleries. So, you know, do your own little research. Go to a whiskey festival. Go table to table to table and try different scotches. Ask them where they're from, or different whiskeys, what country or what state or what region of Scotland they're from. Go try things and see for yourself what you like. When you try something and you like it, cling on to that and then kind of branch out from there.
Yeah.
That's
Get your starting point and kind of go from there.
Sort of advice.
Yeah, I like that.
You know?
Well, I will say this, guys. If you liked this episode, we do many, many, many other episodes on a very variety of different types of spirits. And if you want us to dial into individual bottles, we do individual YouTube videos on a lot of different stuff that we mentioned throughout here. Yeah, and you know, if you are looking for some hard to find scotches, I know Cask Cartel has a bunch of hard to find stuff. You can definitely check them out there. But this was a fun episode, Seth.
This was absolutely a joy to kind of. I've always wanted to do this. I've always, in the back of my mind, I've always wanted to kind of go, okay, one from every region.
Yeah.
Go. And today we did it. And it's eye-opening. And I'm reminded of what I liked, what I didn't like, what I was sort of compartmentalizing in my head about which ones of these sort of sat where in my personal like library in my head of rankings.
Yeah. And the diversity, you know, I mean, that's the biggest thing is it's like someone can say, I like Scotch or I don't like Scotch. But then you also have to say, look, there are many, many, many different types with many different distilling philosophies and different flavors. So before you just count it all out, give a couple of different regions a shot. And if you like our tasting notes, start there. So, all right. Well, guys, you know, this was a blast. Thanks for listening, and do check us out on YouTube as well. Be sure to follow the podcast so that you stay up to date on all of the newest episodes, and definitely follow us on Instagram at the Cartel Hour.
The giveaways,
they come often and they come strong.
Yeah, and they come and they go, so don't miss it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Check it every day.
All right, cheers, guys. The spirits consumed on this show are available at caskcartel.com. They are America's largest online premium spirits marketplace. You can follow us on social media at Cartel Hour, where you can find information about upcoming episodes as well as the free spirits giveaways we do quite often. And if you're a spirits brand that would like to come on the podcast, please email us at host@cartelhour.com or send us a direct message on Instagram. Our theme music is by Verified Picasso. Thank you everyone for listening, and remember to always drink responsibly and in good company.